Hello, and welcome to my design commentary of Doom 1, Episode 2, The Shores of Hell. This episode is kind of a strange mix of themes, described in the Doom wiki as a mix of tech-base, which is, the style of the first episode, and the hell themes of later episode 3. It's primarily credited, or every single level is credited to Sandy Petersen, but a lot of the levels were originally done by Tom Hall, and you can see them in the beta versions of the game, or the alpha versions of the game, which are, alpha point 4 and point 3. You can find them online, this level in particular was credited to Sandy Petersen and Tom Hall. All of them were credited to Sandy Petersen until when the game was released, because Tom Hall left under not so great circumstances, which are detailed in the Doom 1 post-mortem at GDC from a couple years ago. But essentially Tom Hall had wrote up this big design Bible, as he called it, for Doom 1 that outlined the story and, of these locations and, what was supposed to happen in the game. And it was more similar to things done in Half-Life 1, or even Duke Nukem 3D has a slight more story than this game, but those got scrapped, and he got canned for creative differences, among other things. So his levels were just floating, and then they hired Sandy Petersen, who had originally designed for tabletop games. I think Call of Cthulhu is one of them, so that the whole Doom, demonic thing was perfect for him, and I don't think anyone else could have designed Doom Episode 3, but yeah, so every single level in Episode 2 is credited to him, but on John Romero's website, he attributes the levels correctly, because obviously he worked on the game, and many of these are attributed to Tom Hall and Sandy Petersen, and many of them, as we find out from looking at the alphas, had very little done to them. But this level does not appear in the alpha. Yeah, this is a secret, by the way, that I never knew about until now, which is strange, but it gives you a plasma rifle. I didn't like it because I liked the introduction of the Cacodemon later in the map, but anyway. Yeah, and there's that upside-down cross that hurts you, which is very Sandy Petersen, as well as that platform with the shotgun that hurts you, and then those platforms that fall down. This one doesn't appear in the beta or alpha versions, which makes me think that that it was done later, and the incompleteness might have something to do with the fact that it's all broken up by teleporters and very disorienting. The initial area where you start up above and then you teleport below kind of makes me think of, especially below, makes me think of areas in Episode 1. So my suspicion is that Tom Hall was designing maps to look like John Romero's maps in Episode 1, and that these were supposed to be related in terms of theme, but either didn't get very far, or didn't finish it or something. So the map ended up being broken up into this different sort of map with all these teleporters. And the funny thing with the teleporters is that there are certainly teleporters in Episode 2, but this map by far has the most of them, and in terms of theme, it's kind of got marble and brick, and it honestly reminds me more of some maps in Episode 3 than it does of episode 2, so maybe not like the best introduction, because it just doesn't feel quite like the other maps to me. But then this episode kind of isn't really consistent in a lot of ways. There are particular levels that are consistent to each other. Yeah, this is the overhang, that area, and the fact that you can see outside right there, very reminiscent of, like, you know, episode 2 mission, or episode 1 map 4 and some other ones. So, and also that raised little platform with the 2 switches on it that I switched earlier is a very Sandy Petersen thing. Also the fact that you have to enter that red room, you have to step in a pit of lava to enter in that red room, which is very strange, but just kind of defines this episode for a lot of people, I guess, or Sandy Petersen's design in general. You know, the random sadistic areas that just hurt you for no reason are kind of like unfair, but like not unfair in a catastrophic way, just unfair in like a slowly annoying you way. But it also gives his maps a very like particular feel to them, of definitely like a demonic sadistic feel. Yeah, here's where the wall comes down and you see a cacodemon. I always like this part. But yeah, Sandy Petersen, I think his interest in H.P. Lovecraft and, you know, working for the Call of Cthulhu tabletop game, among other things. I don't know. Actually, my friend Anna Anthropy said he was the teacher now at the Guild Hall at SMU, but you can definitely see he's going for a particular feel, and a feel that's like very kind of underrated by people who are in the Doom community now, but has its strengths and weaknesses, to put it in one way. But yeah, here we're at level 2 now, and this is probably the most recognizable map in the game outside of episode 1. It's also like the second map that's demoed, and yeah, there's that switch which is also in the demo. But this map was done, appears in the alpha versions, and it was done by primarily by Tom Hall, and only very, very minor changes were made by Sandy Petersen. I think this is the one that is like the most of Tom Hall. But there was a website called cratemaze.com back in, like, you know, 2002 or something, that was hosted by John Romero, and it's actually still a subdomain on his website, which is just about the original Crate Maze, which is this level, and how it started a video game trope of having like all these areas that are just like, you know, mazes made out of warehouse boxes, crates, and, you know, those areas are not incredibly beloved in video games, to put it lightly, but I think the thing here that distinguishes this is you don't need to go through them to complete the level. Actually, if you follow, you know, where that Berserk pack is earlier, if you turn and follow that, then it'll send you right out of it without you actually have to walk through the crates. But I'm doing it, you know, just cause. This area is definitely big, especially for Doom 1, but it's not like that complicated in that, like, it's not like some of Doom or some of Tom Hall's maps in Wolfenstein, which have just like amazingly complex, horrible mazes in them, especially in episode 6. He's definitely matured, and this was his, he said, his favorite map, but he hates this secret right here, which was apparently added later because he said it ruins the flow of the level, which is true. It sends you to another side of this crate thing, which you're not supposed to see unless you know, turn the corner there. or ruins the progression, I think was more of his concern. But yeah, I don't know. He said it was this whole area was inspired by Indiana Jones at the end, where they put the, God, I can't even remember what they put in the crate and store it in this like massive warehouse, and there's this like matte painting that just zooms out massively of this massive warehouse of crates, and so that's what that was inspired by. But I like how it's kind of this area that you have to escape to get to the rest of the level, which is kind of much more appealing thematically. But yeah, this was definitely the most well realized of Tom Hall's maps. It seems like it was the most of his, and yeah, obviously he said it was the one that he was the most proud of. I love this weird light pattern when you raise the staircase. One of my favorite little introductions into a room, and these have these weird lifts to them. I should say that episode 2 was by far my favorite episode when I was younger, and I'm trying to think over like the reasons why, because I always played with cheats on and everything, and I think why it is because there's a kind of strangeness to them. The feel is like a weird combination of different things, and it isn't always consistent, but there's this kind of chaos or converging on itself or something. There's just that feeling that is hard to describe, and also it kind of combines a lot of the themes of Doom and into one sort of mishmash, and it works better sometimes than others, but I think part of that is because it's a combination, a mishmash of different people's visions, and you see more complete of Tom Hall's vision in this level, and that's probably why it's maybe, I guess it's probably either a tie between this, it's either this or level 4, which seems to be the most well liked of episode 2 in the Doom community. I looked through on the Doom's forum and was looking at everyone's favorite Doom 1 and Doom 2 levels, and the thing that I overwhelmingly realized is that there was no universal favorites. It all seemed to be really varying, and some maps that were some people's favorites, other people just hated. So I guess that's the interesting thing. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's something appealing about almost every map in this game, but this map has a particularly high density of interesting things going on. But yeah, there's that secret, and if you fall in that pit before you lift that chain gun up, you are stuck and you will die, just like in episode 1. And there's that view into a later area which I have not been to yet. Another area that is not required at all. I don't think anywhere here that requires going through the maze is actually required. But yeah, and you can also shortcut it by going up the stairs there. So there's a lot of neat touches, even though the crate maze thing became a horrible video game trope. Tom Hall in the interview, emphasized that it was about that it was just kind of there, and it wasn't necessarily an obstruction to you, but it was part of the environment. And you definitely get the feeling of that in this map, even if it's a little ugly in some ways, and maybe inspired a lot of not so good things, but it probably the most identifiable area that I can think of. Here's another just strange room. That backpack goes up. Oh boy, did I miss it, but you can get it later. And these switches just open 3 different doors, which makes me think of an area in level 4 where you open 3. There's like 5 different doors, I think. God, there's so many of these like kind of things, but this always made me think of level 4 in particular. Yeah, when I was younger, I always like, I never really wanted to play level 5 or 6, but I always wanted to play levels 2 through 4 and level 7, and I found out that those were all Tom Hall's levels, and those were all things that had very little done to them aside from retexturing. I think the funny thing is, like, the way that they're textured was part of what I was reacting to. Like, I haven't seen this texture before. It's really weird. It's something that only really exists in Doom. Like, what the hell is it? I don't know. Blue and brown, weird tech things, those columns. It's definitely very identifiably like a video game. And I'd say, you know, this episode and the next one are very much that way. And the texturing, I guess, is very much Sandy Petersen's thing, although I don't know how much he really did on this level. I think this level was mostly Tom Hall. And I think that very few changes were made. I think like crushing ceilings from, I don't know, there's on the wiki it says, but it isn't incredibly specific. But yeah. So the crate maze also comes back in level 7, which are, I think it and, you know, level 2 and level 7 are interesting little like bookends, and maybe some of the most memorable levels, but there are like things that also this area, these blue lights come back in level 7 and only level 7, and that's the only other place that you see them, and they hurt you. So there's like, you know, the fact that they hurt you is like, seems like a very weird and cheap thing in the minds of like most people who, you know, design Doom levels. I'm showing you that they hurt you there, but I think it adds like a thematic thing, you know, like if you walk through an upside down cross and it doesn't hurt you, then why is it there, you know? Because it's like, it's satanic. It's supposed to hurt you. So I don't know, it makes sense to me. And it defines like the atmosphere and the feel of the game to me, even if it doesn't feel necessarily like episode 1, because episode 1 really does have a different sort of feel to it. But I don't know, you see like these tech walls are kind of like what you might imagine episode 1 was leading up to at the end of like level 6 and parts of level 7 and stuff. You see them again here, but I don't know that they really come back in the way that might hint at, but in a way they do. And this area with the lights and stuff is definitely like kind of very distinctive and chaotic and Doom-like, while also, you know, not being too utterly garish. Like, it looks a lot more garish. I mean, the floor texture and ceiling texture are kind of interesting, but it doesn't look nearly as garish because, you know, when I play this in like newer source ports, I'm always like, ugh, and then I, you know, play this and this, and I was like, that doesn't look too bad at all. Like, I don't know what, you know, what I was complaining about, and I think a lot of the complaints are just like, you know, people are used to playing Doom in these modern source ports, and it's just that the game was not designed for that. It was never designed for that. So I can't really blame the designers for that at all. You know, being ugly or whatever. Even like the kind of areas where it's like bare walled, like if there's something interesting happening there. But here I feel like there's a really good use of contrast. Yeah, this room, like this floor texture, like in newer source ports always looks so ugly, but here it looks really like nice. This room actually I kind of want to chill in that room. But yeah, this level doesn't suffer quite as much because the textures are very detailed, even if the detail is hazy. Yeah. Oh, I don't know if I've gone through here yet. I probably have. These weird... This is definitely a Tom Hall idea. Using the lifts in this weird way, and you'll see that even stranger in the next level. It's like this weird machinery. It's very specific, and yet like not like it's hard to know exactly what it is, and yet it seems like it's something very specific, which I kind of always liked. But yeah, this level has a lot of interesting connections too. You see the exit area from there, which again makes me think of map 7, because you walk into the exit area and you can enter the exit area from 2 different sides. I don't know, these maps seem kind of oddly related. Yeah, but the crushing ceilings, I guess, were added by Sandy Petersen. And I don't know, I always found it odd that this map was so big and had so much going on. It was the second map in the episode. I guess it makes up for it by not having any barons or cacodemons in it. But still, I don't know, if you look at it in the maps online, I think it's even like the biggest size of a map, but maybe that's not true. I'm not sure. Funny thing is, these maps, like, even the ones that seem very kind of like they spread out in all kinds of weird directions, tend to be very compact, and I don't know if that was a limitation of the engine or that's just how they were designed. Like, maybe they were designed with the idea of there being like a base in mind, and so it, you know, having like a square, it all kind of ending up in a square shape had like a reason for it. But, I don't know. Yeah, finish him off. God, I didn't even mention the area before, which is like, the GoldenEye area. The area where you see where to step from above, and then you step in those spaces, so you don't get nuked, to get the key. Is it like very reminiscent of in GoldenEye, where you have to get the golden gun at the end, except that area is way more frustrating, and it's only in like this secret, or this mission that you unlock after you beat the game, essentially. It's really stupid. But yeah, here it sends you back out here, and I always thought, you know, when I played this with cheats, I always entered through there, so I always got very confused as to how the layout worked. And I like also that key room, it's just like you open one door and there's the red key, and that's that. There's no real logical reason for that to be there, but I guess it's just kind of like a there to be anticlimactic or something. I'm just running through this hallway to be insane and show you where it connects back up to, which is back up to that crate area. So all these areas are kind of interconnected, and though it doesn't have the kind of architectural use of the engine that John Romero's levels have, these areas certainly are very connected, and I think this map is really well done. And I don't know, yeah, it seems, even though episode 2 is not well liked necessarily in the Doom community, that map in particular seems to be one of the most well liked of them. But yeah, okay, here's level 3, and a lot of people don't really like this map. I think it was the first, I think it was supposedly the first map that Tom Hall did in the episode, and you know, so the design is more Wolfenstein inspired. I like this side area, even though it's weird. It's kind of like a holdover from the previous level or something, even though these textures aren't used, like the green and the gray and the orange. I don't know who this area came from, but yeah, its only purpose is to like in Pistol Start, this area is pretty hard, and I'm already like fucking it up pretty bad, but it like kind of forces you to run for that chain gun, and then puts you in a big confrontation, and there are little bits of health around, but nothing like huge. So like, you know, having shotgun ammo does certainly help, but it's not plasma ammo or whatever. But yeah, there's a Berserkai. And, you know, there is a lot of health. So yeah, but that area is not at all required, and it's not really related to the rest of the level, which is much more hellish in theme or strange. There's this area with the cacodemons that I don't think you can get into. Perhaps you can. I like how they just sit there and shoot fireballs at you. And yeah, here we go. The lava, or the nukage. And then the really weird lift room, which is one of my favorite rooms. Yeah. This level is kind of, I guess it makes up for, you know, not being nearly as involved architecturally as the previous level by having harder monsters and weird nukage traps and stuff. So perhaps those are additions by Sandy Petersen, because he likes to do that. Here it connects up to another side, but for some reason you can't open that door from the other side, even though the texture looks different, which I don't understand really why, but whatever. And there's a secret there. There's like, through there is like a backpack that you can pick up, but it's in a pit of nukage once again. Like, I don't know why. Just likes to like force you to lose 10% of health just because. Yeah, this is my favorite room. The weird lights and the wall texture is maybe my favorite wall texture in the game. That rock texture, it's so identifiably Doom to me. And the candles, it's like some kind of satanic worship area. I think this is the thing that I liked about the episode. It was very suggestive of some sort of like theme or story, but it didn't really ever try to explain what it was. But it just had a feel that there was something very much different about it. And when you think about like episode 1, it is very otherworldly, and it's kind of these very abstract spaces that are not broken up. And oh, I totally fucked this up because the Baron came after me. It's supposed to be in this room, which you'd think would hold the key, but does not. It's just a room, a side big room. I really don't know how much was changed by Sandy Petersen, but this is another Tom Hall level, like I said before. God, oh, and there's that secret. God, there's just so much going on in each little area in this that it's hard to even break it down. But what was I gonna say? I really don't remember. Well, anyway, so Sandy Petersen had this like book on design, and he had like a chapter where he described his philosophy of like Doom design versus John Romero's, and he said that he preferred like, you know, basically traps and like a steady trickle of enemies as opposed to this kind of ebb and flow, which John Romero's good at. And honestly, I prefer the ebb and flow sort of thing, but the Sandy Petersen always does very unconventional things, like here, major texture misalignment, and there are quite a few in this episode. I assume it was a lot harder to like align the textures properly, or you know, Sandy Petersen decided to interpret that as not being a texture alignment, but being, you know, kind of a feature. Who knows? But yeah, he makes a lot of very unconventional choices, and sometimes they don't work out, but they do add like a very distinctive feel. And I realized that he regardless of whether you like his style or not, he is definitely I won't say an auteur, but has a certain very strong sensibility, because when you look at other people's like fan-made maps of Doom, like none of them quite have the feel of any of his maps. There's really something unique there. And I'd say the same with like Tom Hall's maps, or even John Romero's, even though they're imitated all the time. But yeah, I think there's something like inherently appealing or sexy about John Romero's maps, in that they provide like this sense of space that is kind of internally consistent, and provides like a consistent sense of place, but doesn't necessarily like, even though it challenges you a lot, it doesn't necessarily pull you out of the game. And I feel like these always are reminding you that you're in you're in a game, and this is something, very much not real. And I don't know, I like that in a lot of ways. It's just, I don't know, it's I can't, there's something very like, oh god, that the texture is moving too. Just the way that these levels were designed, both Tom Hall's and Sandy Petersen design, like, and I can tell Tom Hall's design philosophy well enough just from looking at like Wolfenstein and Commander Keen and like Rise of the Triad levels that he did. They just involve a lot of like very unconventional and strange decisions, and a lot of the times they don't work out, but a lot of sometimes they really do. I'd say there are more hits with Tom Hall's than Sandy Petersen's, but people just don't design things like that, especially first-person shooters. There's really nothing that I can think of in these levels that makes me think of like current first-person shooters. The design just doesn't strike me as very similar at all, and like whereas like episode 1, the design isn't similar either, but I feel like I've seen people try to sort of replicate that kind of feel much more in other things. But there's this kind of very abstract, cartoony, but also thematic story-based design where there are all these weird and challenging things happen. You're sent on this kind of amazing journey of progression from beginning to end, and that was always the biggest influence on me, and you see that a lot also, and I feel like there are a lot of Duke Nukem 3D maps that have that too, and that just kind of, maybe Half-Life a little bit too, but that I feel like that just kind of disappeared, and it got replaced by something else. And that's why I'd say that this episode in general in this game really doesn't have much to do with what's currently made, and that has a lot to do with why what's currently made doesn't really appeal to me. But hopefully I can talk more in depth about what appeals to me about this episode later, when I look at level 4 and level 5 and 9. I already have them recorded, but I'm going to do commentary and stuff later. So hopefully you've enjoyed this, and I will have the next one uploaded in the next week or so, probably less than that. But anyway, okay, later.